Siento en el alma un inmenso dolor y no lo puedo expresar. Mi raza está olvidando su ayer y no lo puedo evitar. Un inmenso dolor y no lo puedo expresar. Mi raza está olvidando su ayer y no lo puedo evitar. Quisiera ser como un rayo de sol que alumbre el amanecer y con su luz hacer comprender lo que Latinoamérica es. Hermanos del norte hasta el sur, un solo idioma, una realidad. Vamos hermanos, nos van a escuchar, con voces apoya vamos a cantar.
Good morning, or wherever you are. Hello, and welcome to our 5th day of STEAM Week. And this is our 4th day of sessions in English. This is the first session of the day because today we're having 2 sessions. So thank you so much for joining us. And if you're watching this recording, thank you so much for your time. This is time invested in professional development. And today's session, you're going to love it. Hello, Sheila.
Hello, good morning, Betsy. Yeah, it's amazing. We have been 5 days just discussing and exploring about STEAM. And we really hope that the people that have watched these videos have more ideas in order to do the best practices into their teaching or into their job. So welcome to this new day of conferences. Today, as Betsy says, is the first one. In the afternoon, we're going to have another amazing one. So today, our guest
Don't say anything yet.
Okay.
Calm down.
Okay.
Let's
hold it. Let's hold it for a moment. Okay, let's go over some of the information that we have.
Well, let's take a look at some of the awesome people who have shared with us this week. Ta-da!
Woo!
Welcome, Tim. The stage today is yours. Enjoy it. You're in. Well, we can welcome you to Guatemala, but actually, we have teachers who signed up for this team week to learn about all of these skills that you can empower your students with. So there's people who signed up from Hong Kong, people who signed up from you tell
Maybe
me, Sheila,
Malaysia, I think.
Malaysia,
Yeah.
the US. So hopefully, when they watch this recording, they enjoy seeing you and learn a lot from you. So we're gonna pop out of the stage, and this is all your time. So please share with us.
Excellent.
Thank you
Thank
for
you so much.
coming.
Of course. Of course. I'm happy to be here.
Thank
So, yes, welcome. I'm so happy to be here to talk a little bit about STEAM. I think this is a fantastic idea of focusing on STEAM this week, and I'm really happy to be part of it. So, I am going to share a little bit about my book, STEAM Power, and some of the work that I have done over the years to help STEAM. And I also share a lot of resources. So, you could see my social media is at Tim Needles on every social media, really: Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, you name it. I also have a blog that I use for my classes. I have been a art teacher for 25 years. I'm also an educational technology coach, and I also teach at the college level as well. So I also have a website, timneedles.com, and of course, the book that we will reference today, STEAM Power, Infusing Art into Your STEM Curriculum, from ISTE. So I have been working as an artist as well as a teacher for many years, and I really believe in being hands-on and doing a lot of project-based learning. And that's really what the focus of this session will be. You know, most people understand STEAM here, but of course, when I was writing the book, I wanted to make sure that I talked to the industries and the professionals, and I wanted to make sure I made a strong argument of why art should be included with STEM. And regardless of where I went, I heard the same sort of things, which is that design and creativity are as integral to science, technology, engineering, and math, and that really art was naturally a part of it. So, you know, the question of why should you add arts into STEM is sort of an easy one, because it allows students to understand and synthesize their learning, and to actually show their learning with creativity. It adds clarity for visual thinkers. And I always loved things like sketch notes. Personally, I always drew them myself. It helped me understand and remember things better. So I always believe like a mindset is really important, the perspective that you bring into the world of education. And these are the things that I find most helpful when, you know, when working with STEAM, which is creativity, failure, curiosity, design, and fun. I always like to tell students that process teaches more than product. So not to focus too much on the end result, but actually on the learning. And in terms of creativity, I like that Albert Einstein, the famous scientist, is the one who said that imagination is more important than knowledge. So, you know, taking those creative risks is really essential, and that's part of innovation. And there's people like, you know, Leonardo da Vinci is an amazing example of STEAM. And he certainly had that mindset and mastery in every one of these disciplines. So I always remind my students that every day is another opportunity to be creative. So one of the things I learned in writing the book is that you know, I have an emphasis on the creative process. So, you know, you begin by brainstorming and preparing, thinking about the different elements, and then incubating. You kind of let those ideas cook for a little while, and then you actually have the making process. So this is the main focus, certainly in the classroom. But usually we start with simple materials like cardboard, and then scale up and revise it and evaluate it. And then finally sharing the pieces. And that's very, very similar to the scientific process. So, you know, there's really parallels throughout these different disciplines. And then failure is an important aspect too, I think. It's really important to reframe failure, because a lot of people feel the stigma of failure, and it stops them from moving forward. So you need to understand that failure is part of the process, and that if you persevere, it actually is just called learning. It's only failure if you stop and cease working. So I like that it was Thomas Edison that said, "I have not failed," when he was trying to create the light bulb. He said, "I've just found 10,000 ways that won't work." So that's a really helpful sort of mindset. And then there's people like Elon Musk today that, I think he went through something like, 70 rockets trying to find the right, solution that worked. And that was okay. That was part of the process. And I think that's a really great example. And then, of course, there's things like design. So, we're surrounded by design every day in life. And, the clothes we wear, the spaces we occupy, all of it is designed by people. And we deal with good and bad design. So it's always an opportunity for learning. So every bad design that you encounter is a terrific project. Whether it's the school classroom, if that doesn't work the way that, it would help students learn best, you could help redesign it with the students. That's always a great idea. And design thinking is an aspect that I like to incorporate as well. So it starts with empathy and learning from people. So you actually start by talking to people about, what works for them and observing the way that they work, and you find patterns. And then you incorporate the design principles. And then again, you start making it tangible. This is the making aspect. And then iterate or edit just relentlessly. You continue to edit until it is really, really highly functional. So that's really helpful too. I think the other important thing is curiosity. I think, great educators and great minds always are curious. And I think we have to encourage students to be curious as well. I think it helps promote self-directed learning so that students are actually learning just because they're interested in something. So modeling this behavior as an educator is really important. And remaining curious. So I am curious about many things still as an adult, and I share that with students. And I always like to say being an artist is all about being curious. So when I'm curious about something, I allow myself to really research and find answers. And I share that whole process with students and encourage them to do the same thing. And then, of course, fun. I think fun is just really important, especially in STEAM. STEAM is fun naturally. I think, it's really nice when you're collaborating with lots of people and you're giving students their own voice and offering choice so that they actually can make their own decisions. Really, really helpful, and it makes for a fun learning environment. These are projects that students remember forever when they are done correctly. And I think that it really frees up the classroom and makes everyone more open to innovation and creativity and taking creative risks. So, I always like to say that learning something new offers a creative perspective. So you don't need to be a specialist. You don't need to know everything about a subject to try it. I started coding and I knew very little about it. And I just worked with the students as colleagues, really. And we kind of discovered together. And I think that's okay. And it's okay to really open up and try something new, even if you don't know about it. Technology offers this to us all the time. So it will be very easy as we continue to explore different things in technology and try and bring creativity to it. So certainly in online learning, it's a pleasure to be able to talk to so many people today. Virtually, I think it offers some amazing opportunities, and it's a lot of fun. So, I think, there's lots of options that are available to us now that were not a few years ago, and it makes for a better STEAM learning environment. So let's take a look at some projects. So whenever I like to begin this session of where we're actually looking at projects, I think it's important to begin by just saying, let go of judgment, right? So judgment is one of those things that will slow people down. And, if you're fearful or if you're afraid of being judged, it's going to be really difficult, even if you're just judging yourself. So we're going to play and create and enjoy. So, we'll start by talking about code art. Coding is an important aspect of STEAM. It's such an important aspect of so many things in the world today. I think knowing something about coding is really important. So, I like to teach students at least the basics of coding, and then as an art teacher to bring the creative aspects to it. So in the creative space, digital drawing is usually another area where I sort of begin. So using digital tools is really helpful and allows a beautiful expression as well. So these are some of the different types of things that we do. Everything from I'll start with doing self-portraits. I think is always interesting. Zentangles, which is just designs like you see in the bottom left there, bottom right. Perspective drawings, mandalas, murals, sketchbooks, e-comics, and artist trading cards. So we'll look at some of these projects now, and I'll show you some examples. So there are a number of different things. And I also, in the resources, I will share, this is a video I made for ISTE about digital drawing tools for creative learning. I'll show you a little piece of it now, and then it'll be in the resources. Hey, I'm Tim. I'm an art teacher from New York, and I'm an ISTE author. I'm going to talk about a bunch of different ways to use drawing and digital drawing at home with really limited resources. Now, I understand that drawing is going to cause some people some anxiety and that there might be some resistance, but these are ways to implement drawing in fun and engaging ways that don't require a ton of different skills, right? So you could use some free apps and different techniques to add some creativity to whatever subject you teach. A great way to start is with sketch notes. You could use free programs like Adobe Draw, or you could just draw traditionally, but adding visuals to your notes really is a great way to get creative. Another great way is to actually draw with code itself, and there's lots of free programs to use. Here's a look at code.org. So this is a free resource that anyone could use. It allows you to make a new section just straight from Google Classroom, or you can give students a code to put in. There's an hour of code tutorial called The Artist that's really good. It starts out pretty simply, merging math and art together with computer science, and you just need to figure out the different angles to move the person forward. A nice thing is by the time you get to the 10th step, you're actually just making art. So I will click run. And you're actually using functions and repeats to create your own artwork. Another code art, and we'll kind of go into the details. So usually I have students begin with just creating a digital drawing journal and to draw whatever they want to get comfortable with just drawing in different styles. It also tells me a lot about the students. And then we like to focus a little bit on gratitude and what you're grateful for. So I'll have students actually help decorate the classroom on some of the things that they're focusing on. And then we kind of go to mandala. So mandala is Sanskrit for circle, and it's meant to help focus the attention of the practitioner. So it does help you get focused. But we actually are going to start with these mandalas, and then we will recreate them using code. So, I use tools like drawings, Procreate, and Photoshop, and all of those are in the resources as well, along with some tutorials that I created to show how to do that. And then I like to use a tool like the Inspirograph. So this is based on a toy that we used when I was younger that creates mathematical roulette curves. So this is a digital version of it, and you're able to just choose a color and actually see how these roulette curves are made. And it's very similar to mandala because it is center focused, but this actually has a mathematical element to it that actually helps with that respect too. And you could change the background colors, and you could change the colors. And of course, all of these different options are here, and you could add to it. So very easy tool to use, and it just helps students understand a little bit of the center-based roulette curves. So very easy to use, and it has a mathematical element. And then we kind of bring it to code.org, like the video I showed you, and that will show you the next step of kind of using code to create some of these. And if you haven't used code.org, very easy to use. You don't need to actually understand all the code. It's teaching you just the structure itself. And then I like to go to the next level, which is to use a program like Scratch, where students have a little bit more freedom to extend it and do more. So they could create a little bit more and go a little bit further. And then we kind of go to the next step, which is using artificial intelligence. So this is using really edgy new materials. So we used a tool called the Magic Sketchpad, which was based on Sketch RNN, and we actually draw along with Google's artificial intelligence. So this is a fun program that allows students to understand a little bit of AI. So, thousands of people put in data, and we use the tool right here. And you're going to choose what you want to draw. So I'm going to pick butterfly, and you pick a color. So I'm going to start the drawing. And then Google is going to draw it along with me. So it's a little bit like drawing with a 5-year-old, if you've ever tried that. It's not going to be perfect, but like there is something interesting. You're doing a collaborative drawing now along with computer AI. So it gives students an opportunity to understand a little bit of how AI works. And we use this along with the program called Quick Draw, which is where you're entering the data. So there's lots of different options here. We'll draw an angel together. So I'm going to start with just a circle, and it will draw the rest of it. So no drawing is going to be the same, but it's an interesting way to kind of incorporate AI together. What's also interesting is if you take a look, the computer decided to put some things together that I don't understand why they would go together. So like ant and yoga, it made ant yoga, or bee and flower, which makes a little bit more sense, put together. So there's some interesting things, cat bus, cat pig. So, AI is still in really its infant stage. It will get a lot better over time. And there's a lot of talk, obviously, about AI now and how it works. But I think it's important to give students, a chance to actually work with some of these tools to better understand them. So I also really love doing STEAM trading cards. So this is where students actually design a card about a famous person from STEAM. So here's an example of one of my students who created a card for Marie Curie. So this was a 9th grade student, and she created the drawing, and then in the back, she creates all the information about them. So I use tools like Quizlet to kind of share information about them. And I have a Quizlet Live that students play. So it has all different famous people in the world of STEM and STEAM, from artists to scientists, some that you would know like Einstein and Tesla here, to some that you might not be so familiar with, along with some modern people that are cutting edge. So, I always really focus on the creativity in STEAM. I think that's a really important factor. And even when we make mistakes, I think it's important to use them as learning opportunities. So I shared in the resources a little bit. I did 2 TED Talks. The first one is on everyday creativity. I'll show you a short piece of that now. When they're drawing, which is the most important part of that skill. And, I'll give an assignment like photographing a self-portrait without using your face, right? Because you have to actually think more about how to find a creative solution to that problem. Or creating a sculpture without using any art materials at all, right? And then in writing, there's things like haiku, which is a Japanese 3-line poem of 5 syllables, 7 syllables, and 5 syllables. So that restriction makes it a little bit easier to be creative and find an interesting solution, right? But the best example I could give you, creative challenges. So I'll give students a challenge each week. And I will actually offer them an opportunity to create their own challenges. So, the challenge I like to give to start out with is always to have people actually draw themselves without using any drawing material. So find things around the house and create a drawing of themselves. So I will share some of the different tools here. The thing that I want to make sure I add is, once you sort of are doing some STEAM work, there's these are the things that I think help bring us together and elevate it to the next level. One is connection. I think the connection you have with the students is really, really important. The connection you have with colleagues. Together we are all educators and we help each other. Things like GEG are fantastic for this. And I think there's great power when we make these kind of meaningful connections. I think collaboration is a really important part of STEAM, working with other people, getting different perspectives. It's great now that it's so much easier to work with people around the world. authenticity, being true to yourself, sharing who you are, also being authentic in the projects and work that you do. So I try to, like the UN has the Sustainable Development Goals. So I look at things that really need, like big problems that need to be solved for the world. And I think that's a great place to actually do some of the work we're doing. So you could do it locally and then make some local solutions to problems. So we're working with, local water health and making sure that the water is safe to drink and safe for our local environment. And then, creating artwork that helps communicate that message. And those are the kinds of projects that will really be impactful because they go out into the community and out into the world. And then, of course, being sustainable. So both as, using the Sustainable Development Goals and things like that as a center for some of the projects, and also being sustainable as a teacher, making sure that you take care of yourself and are there to continue helping people. So here's a quick look at how I started that process. So this is, we started designing things about the water and we created murals. And then we kind of worked on local solutions of, creating some, using some recycled or upcycled materials to create things like a courtyard where students could work. And then I also like to have my learning environment, make sure that it reflects the reality of everything as well. So like these are some pictures from the Google offices. And if you notice, they're colorful, they're fun, they're vibrant. And, that's what a classroom should look like as well. So, we started redesigning my classroom to fit some of those aspects. So it's really helpful. And, taking care of yourself and making self-care priority is also important. So, things like storytelling and collaboration really help in that regard quite a bit. And being mindful of the bigger picture. I think that's really important. We are all here together working to help students and, helping each other is just as important. So I do share lots of different challenges. I'm on social media sharing different tools I use in projects all the time. I also love sharing examples from students. Here's some examples of some of the quotes from important people in STEAM. And I also share on YouTube. You can find lots of the creative challenges. Here's the traditional selfie challenge that I shared.
This week with Mr. Needles.
So it has the entire challenge.
Okay.
And then here are some examples of students doing self-portraits with materials. So this was Skittles, Cheetos, and nature. So leaves. So like it's very creative and it gives you a chance to focus on the creativity that students bring. So, other things like augmented reality are in the book. And I love playing with AR. We do things like the creative dot drawings and then bring them into augmented reality using Quiver, which is a fantastic tool. And then even my book itself, I created, you can see probably right above me is the 3D print of the word Steam Power. And we kind of share lots of those. So there's tons of resources here. I love video poetry, another aspect of the book. So you could create video poems and share them. And I have lots of examples. And all of this will be in the resources if you want to explore it and in the book. So, it's a lot of fun, but I always love, sharing some of these aspects with teachers. And I also have tutorials on how to do each one of these projects. So you remember that there is no wrong way to make art. You just need to find what works for you. And that's the key. So I think we have some time for some questions, if anyone has any. And I will share some additional resources in the Wakelet.
I was waiting for Shayla because I think she has a great question for you.
Oh, great.
Yeah, you were discussing about sustainability, and nowadays there is also lots of efforts, for working with this sustainable development goals. What advice can you tell our teachers in order to engage students into these meaningful learning experiences?
That's a great question. I mean, like, I think when you're dealing with sustainable development goals and sustainability in general, so, it needs to be, I like global solutions. I think that like collaborating with people around the world is really, really helpful. Right now, my class is working with students in Korea and in Poland and Romania and around the US. So, it's really nice to get the different perspectives, and to see the different ways these issues uh, arise around the world. And then I like to start and look locally, and see how could we actually, make an impact locally, and then maybe share how we made that impact. So, we go out into the community and we talk to parents and teachers and the local government, and work with them and find small solutions that start maybe at the school or in the close community, and then kind of share out and get bigger and scale up from there.
Yeah, there's a saying somewhere I read it, like think globally but act locally, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
So yeah, sometimes we go to our community and we think that the things that we are creating are the best ones for them, but actually they have their own needs, right? And
Right.
it's better to go back and share with them. And this is part of the design thinking process as well.
Absolutely. Yes.
Right. What is the first step is empathize, right?
Empathy is really important first step. Yeah, because I think if you don't have empathy, then if it involves people, it's not really going to work.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. I love the examples that you showed about how to help the community with different pieces of art, and it can be, I mean, anywhere, right? Even a little place to sit down and read a
Yeah.
book, but you go and you do this art scenario in a better way, so people can really think about differently in that landscape. What other advice can you give the teachers? You said no judgment, but also sometimes our teachers are like fearful in order
Yeah.
to start with the STEAM projects.
Sure.
And sometimes, especially those areas that are not related to science or technology, right? Like social studies or, language arts. What advice can you give to those teachers?
Yeah, I think you start by taking risks, but maybe they could be smaller risks. You know what I mean? And collaborate too. Like, I love working with other teachers. So it's like, I'm more comfortable taking risks. I have no problem whatsoever. The more risks you take, and when it works out and you learn lessons, it makes it easier to do. So I think you start with smaller, experiments, to take risks. And I think one of the things you learn is that if you talk to the students and say like, well, I'm not exactly 100% sure of how to do this, but we'll learn together, that you collaborating with the students, and it makes it more meaningful, because we don't have all of the answers as educators. We're never going to have all the answers, but it's the process of learning that's important. And when you share that vulnerability, it's going to actually change the classroom. So like, it makes them partners in their learning, and it empowers them too. So I think that's really important.
Yeah.
I want to piggyback on that, Tim, because I've been a teacher for over 20 years. I started teaching English as a second language, uh, but afterwards I got very interested in technology, so I became the computer science teacher at a school I work for. And I had to learn so many things, and I think a lot of teachers are going to feel, the way I felt at the beginning. But you mentioned a keyword, which is vulnerability, and letting your students know that you're not the source of knowledge and that you're going to have the answer to every single question. And when you open your heart and allow for the space for learning for both the teacher and the students, you allow your students to surprise you,
Yeah.
because they can come back with things you never expected, whereas you're the know-it-all, the center of attention. I have everything. This is what we're doing. You have to do what I say. You're building that wall, and you won't allow, for that room for that creativity to flow. So I know what you're saying, and I can tell teachers he's right. I've lived it. And the second thing I would like to add is the fact that our administrators at schools need to be very supportive in this sense. And again, non judgmental. For those of you who don't know, Sheila is the assistant principal at the school I work. So she knows what I'm talking about. I'm very thankful for the fact that they've allowed me to do a lot of crazy stuff in the school with the teachers. And sometimes there are things that don't work, but that's the part
Yeah.
of it. And I think that we are teaching our students that they can learn from their mistakes, we teachers, we can also learn from those mistakes. And there's something we joke a lot about with the teachers, like if we teach the same grade but we have four sections of the same grade, the first time we throw out the lesson, it's not going to come out so well. The second time we know what things we can fix. The third time it's better. The fourth, we nailed it.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Well, but
it's a matter of trust also, right?
Yeah.
Because this is something that we have to believe in. And one of these days, Betsy and I were discussing about this, that the most important thing nowadays is to help our students understand technology, but also become creators of their own technology as well. That those are Betsy's words, and I don't truly believe in that. It's not just about consuming what is around, but it's also create my own, right?
Absolutely.
That really makes a big shift in their minds, and we're preparing them also for the future jobs and
Yeah. Yeah.
challenges that they're going to find around.
now that you mentioned that, Sheila, I have a question, maybe the final question for Tim. We value your time and we appreciate what you have come to share with us. We strongly recommend this awesome book.
Yes, it's
Um,
here.
so
We already have it.
So our final question is: there's another trending topic besides artificial intelligence. I mean, it's trending now. We know that it's been around for a long time, but the other topic is the metaverse, and how can all of these skills and infusing art help the future engineers of the metaverse? I mean, it's around the corner. What can you tell us?
Yeah, I teach a lot about the metaverse because we could see that it's going to be so impactful in the future. So I think that, I try to have students have some experience, with VR and creating in virtual worlds, because I just feel like, you could see how much large companies like Google and Facebook, who change their name to Meta, like there's a reason when a company like that changes their name to Meta, that's going all in on a technology. So you understand that this is an important aspect. I think gaming and students playing video games, and it's all collaborative. It's like you could see how that moves into the metaverse easily. And you could have an educational aspect to those games, which is important. So I think it's important for us as educators to expose students to the things that are going to be important in their world. And I think the metaverse is certainly one of those things. So, dealing with elements of virtual reality and creating in 3D spaces, and understanding that world, really important. And I understand that as educators, like this is all brand new. We can't know tons about it, but you explore together. So I think that's important. And again, you work with other teachers, so you collaborate. I think that's really helpful too. So it's like, I know a little bit about these aspects in the art world of the metaverse, and like, I talk to other friends who have dealt with other elements, and I think collaboration actually helps us all as educators too. So there's a world that will be really impactful for education, and probably for our day-to-day life at some point. And you can see that, like, it's still in its very early process, but that's a great time to actually kind of get in and to experiment and to learn about it, because when you're in on that ground floor, you have a better understanding.
Thank you so much for adding that. It means a lot. I'm gonna be tweeting those words. It's true. It's true. And yesterday we had a group of speakers telling us about the impact and the uses of the metaverse. And something we realize is that it's going at the speed of light. I mean, we have to go. We can't go that fast, but we have to try. We have to try because definitely educators are going to have a very important role in that sense. So I want to share with you who's going to be joining us this afternoon. Before you go, Tim, I would like, since you connected the sustainable development goals, there's a wonderful group, in Africa who started this movement, and it was started by kids. This is how impactful it can be, how empowered our kids can feel. So this afternoon we're going to have Michelle Taffy from the Kikau Cultures, and they're going to be telling us about the Sustainable Development Goals for Meaningful Learning Experiences. This is a session you can't miss. Connect with them, find them on Twitter. They're doing awesome stuff. You'll be amazed at how the kids are presenting their ideas, their innovations. That's what we want to see more. We want to see more youth jumping in and telling us, as Tim was saying, hey, I have a very small idea. It's okay. It's going to be a local thing or something for my community. But that's what they say, start small, finish big. And giving them this big audience makes it even more authentic. So Tim couldn't have explained it better. Please join us in that next session. The attendance link, the participation link is already in the chat and it has also been added. Shayla, can you show us where we can find it, please? So
We have this Wakelet space where we have embedded all the session recordings and the resources. Here you're going to find Mr. Nero's resources and his Twitter handle. And here is the participation form so you can get your certificate of attendance. Okay. And don't forget to follow us on social media as well.
I love this comment from it says prepa Zapotitlic lengua extranjera.
Yeah.
That's exactly the
There
reason
you go.
why. That's exactly the reason why we're doing this, guys. Because we want to reach more teachers and we want to make you, feel sure that you're not alone. We're here, even though we're miles away from you. We're probably doing similar things, trying to transform our classrooms with all of these wonderful ideas.
Yeah. And
Tim,
we had another guest from Colombia
good.
and from Colombia and from Guatemala. And here is a petition for Mr. Needles. It would be great if the
I,
book was translated into Spanish.
I was working on it. I was talking to some friends. Yeah, I would
We
love to
can
see
sign up for that.
Yeah, yeah. One of our leaders at GEG Guate is asking for that, Claudina. Yeah,
All right. Tim, we can't thank you enough for accepting this invitation. Probably you heard this phrase, mi casa es su casa. So you're welcome anytime. Thank you for sharing. And well, I guess this is it. We'll see you
yeah,
in our next session. Have a wonderful time. Don't forget to check out the resources and have a wonderful time. Bye bye.
yeah. Let's keep
it.
that STEAM mindset, right?
Right. Yeah, there you go. Have a great
Thank you,
day.
thank you, Tim. Bye bye.